Namaste and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jigyasha Rai Yangkhurung, an Executive Committee member of Nepal National Committee on Irrigation and Drainage, NENCID. I would like to welcome you all to this 9th episode of NENCID Friday Talk program. NENCID is our National Committee for ICID, International Commission on Irrigation and Drainage. And in order to share and exchange knowledge and experiences among national and international multidisciplinary professionals, NENCID is organizing this Friday Talk program as a part of Irrigation and Drainage Talk series. In this series, an event is held every second Friday of every month according to Bikram Samvat calendar. And today's event is the 9th episode of this series. We will share the information regarding the 10th episode at the end of this event. So please be with us till the end. We are very much thankful that we have been receiving many positive reviews regarding this event. So if you have any more suggestions, comments, or feedbacks on how we can make it even better, then please write to us at nencid.nepal@gmail.com. Now, before starting the main event, I would like to state some of the ground rules. This session will be an hour long. First 20 minutes will be a presentation, which will be followed by a question and answer and discussion round. We request you to kindly mute your microphone and we encourage you to maximize the use of chat box for questions or for any comments or to express your viewpoints. If you have to share your opinions verbally, please unmute yourself before speaking. Now, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Vishnu Pandey from Pulchowk Campus, who is also an executive committee member of Nepal National Committee on Irrigation and Drainage, NENCID, to introduce the speaker and moderate the session. Thank you so much. Vishnu sir, over to you.
Thank you, Jigyasha ma'am. And namaskar, good evening, and welcome to you all in this episode. Could you go to the next slide, please? Today, we are honored to have our speaker as Sanjeev Baral, who is all well known to most of us. He is currently a Deputy Director General with the Department of Water Resources and Irrigation. Could you go to the next one, please? And Mr. Baral has worked in different capacity with the government of Nepal, which includes a civil engineer with Dolidar, currently called as Doli, Senior Divisional Engineer at DWRI, Joint Secretary at Ministry of Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation, and currently serving as a DDG at Department of Water Resources and Irrigation. He has worked at the provincial, he also has worked as the province secretary of the Bagmati province. Also project director with the Beri Babai Diversion Multipurpose Project, project manager at Budi Ganga Hydropower Projects, among many others. Mr. Baral has received several awards, including the prestigious Service Excellence Award, which is called as Suprabal Janaseva Sri. Mr. Baral has completed a master's in water resources engineering, executive MBA, and a prestigious Hubert H. Humphrey Fellowship Program, which is Fulbright Fellowship Program from Cornell University, New York in USA. He's also a PhD scholar at Institute of Engineering, Tribhuvan University. With this very, very brief background, I would like to invite Mr. Baral for an interesting talk. You will have around 25 minutes for your talk. That will be followed by question and answer. Mr. Baral, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vishnu. Can I share my slide first?
I think should be possible.
Sure. Oh, no. Okay, yeah, now it is here. Okay. Now, is it okay? Yeah. Everybody, can you see Dr. Pandey?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Vishnu Pandey, Jigyasha Ji, and NENCID committee for inviting me in this episode. Today, I'm going to share some of the issues we have been talking nowadays about the river and water-induced disaster policy, because I think this is very right time to discuss about this policy, because Department of Water Resources and Irrigation has been formulating a new policy, reviewing the previous water-induced disaster policy. Without taking much time, I would like to start my presentation here. Distinguished participants and all participants here. My topic of the presentation is river and water induced disaster policy, relevance and way forward in the change context. The change context and new role, or the need for new policies. We have been moving into the new federal structure. The Department of Water Resources and Irrigation is formed, merging two previous departments with the new role of water resources management. And water-induced disaster efforts shall be ineffective without a systematic river management interventions. So the river issues should be linked with the water-induced disaster activities. And there are a lot of issues of the river management which need to be addressed in new policy and regulation aspect for the appropriate river management. The climate change impact is changing, and we need to address these things and use of the appropriate technology and our previous policy provision to revise within the 5 years. So these are the need for new policy interventions. If we see, there are a lot of problems we have been facing nowadays. The first one is mismatch between the allocation and demand. We are receiving, Department of Water Resources and Irrigation we have been receiving huge demand for river management and water-induced disaster management works. However, if we see our budget allocation is quite low, and there is huge pressure on the resource management to address these demands. And because of that, we are nowadays sometimes somehow lost to provide the focused intervention, such as the Mahakali River protection work, like that. Yeah. And another issue is lack of the coordination. 3 tiers of governments are formed, and they are doing their activities, river management works independently without a coordination. Even government has provided the thresholds for the role and responsibility, but it has not been following nowadays. And the uniformity in design and implementation works are another issues. If we see the joint extensive effort during the disaster and emergency situation, it is not effective. And there are some overlaps and duplication in different places. And if we see the river aspect, the minimum waterway has not been maintained nowadays. The structures are constructed within the waterway, which results the flood and inundation issue more severe and unmanageable. So these issue is quite problematic nowadays. And we can see the river encroachment. The rivers are flowing, swinging and or shifting naturally, but at the field level, the individuals are claiming the area within the river course. We have the valid Lalpurja over there, so that is my land, like that. And they demand to construct the river management structure within the river course, which is really a challenging things. And even the infrastructure constructed are very haphazard way in the river banks, which results the addition of more more vulnerability in the river. And if we see the international practice, the new approach of river has been taken as, should the river have the same legal rights as human or not? And if we see, the Professor Stone in 1974 established one new concept of legal personality, which actually advocate for environmental personhood, or river should be treated as a as a living thing, or right to appear in the court. Ecuador, New Zealand, and Bangladesh has established these principle of legal personhood, which is helpful for addressing the river pollution, stopping the river pollution and illegal riverbank development or enforcement. However, if we see our case, the discharging of water waste and dumping the solid waste in the river is very common, which makes our river too ugly. So this is one of the major problem in the river. And also not maintaining the waterway within the river. The infrastructures have been developing in unplanned way, and residents and activities in risk zone. And if we see, the study and hazard map have been prepared in critical stretches of the river. However, the implementation aspect is very poor, and weak regulation and no mechanism to giving approval for construction in these critical areas. So if we see the river banks, they are somehow like occupied, or haphazard development is there, so resulting no room for future development and beautification of river. So this is another very pertinent issue. And another problem with the river is unplanned extraction of the river material, over extraction of the river material from the near the infrastructures, near the hydraulic structures in the upstream and downstream side, which results the infrastructure in the failure state, or threaten or put these structures in high risk condition. So this is another issue. And we have we have constructed the river management works and reclaimed the land, but these lands remains unused or encouraged by the unauthorized person, and there is no clear policy to use such developed lands in social, economical, and other activities. So and if we see, if we can't justify the if we need to justify the investment decision of the river management work, then we need to highlight the benefits received from that things, which we are missing to do that things. That's why to address these problems, we are drafting the new policy incorporating the river and water-induced disaster issues. So the vision is to use manage the rivers and mitigate the water-induced disaster in a sustainable way to achieve the high economic growth of the country. And we have adopted the strategies as shown in below, like the river management and water-induced disaster risks will be managed through the appropriate coordination and cooperation among the federal, provincial, and local governments. A participatory approach will be adopted managing the river and water-induced disaster. Water-induced disaster mitigation works shall follow the IWRM principles and river-based approach. Water-induced disaster management will be designed with the disaster resilient, user-friendly technologies, appropriate technology, maximizing the utilization of the local knowledge, skill, and resource for their substantial viability. The capacity of the disaster-affected local community will be enhanced to further cope the disaster caused by the water-induced disaster. The institutional capacity capacity building is also another strategist we proposed. So the one of the major issue covered in our new policy is river management issue. So we need to maintain to even river gradient naturally stays. Another policy we adopted is managing the sediment transport and sediment deposition for the sustainable management of the river system. And another is maintaining water quality, river system and ecology, linking the river management with the water-induced disaster management activity and proper regulations. These are the new provisions under this policy compared to the previous policy. So we entered into the federal context. So the river and water-induced management activities shall be carried out by the 3 tier governments in a coordinated way. This is our main policy direction, making the roles and responsibility and threshold clear legally. After the approval of this policy, will definitely prepare the act where the thresholds will be clearly stipulated, and these threshold will be reviewed periodically based on the capacity of the province and local government. And these efforts will definitely ensure the efficiency and effectiveness, avoiding the overlaps and duplications. So our policy will clearly define the role and responsibility for river and water-induced disaster management policies. So we proposed the thresholds that will conducted by the government of Nepal, provincial government and local government. If we see here, the major and medium rivers rivers shall be the responsibility of central government. Flood and inundation management as well as drainage management that is related to the border issue, cross-border area. In the these are small but need to be implemented in coordination with the 2 countries. That's why we put this issue under the central government. And during the emergency, critical, highly risky area and infrastructure and economic areas shall be conducted by the government of Nepal. And landslide management, having the area as well as new parameter we have put is like sometimes if that landslide impact the population greater than 1,000 in Tarai and 200 in hill, then that will be the jurisdiction of the central government. Similarly, we have categorized the provincial and local government threshold. So our policy, we proposed the policy to address the emergency management of the disaster. At that time, our working policy provides room for joint effort and intervention during the emergency situation. And in case if the situation is beyond the capacity of the province and local government, then GON, Government of Nepal, can take any action during the disaster. This is actually a great lesson learning from the recent Melamchi landslide and flood issue, because in Melamchi the capacity, though the river classified to the provincial category, but a lot of intervention is needed from the central government during the disaster situation. And the policy explained like the guidelines shall be prepared for the infrastructure construction, management, maintenance, and other regarding the other procedural matters to work during the emergency situation. And the maintaining the river system. Now we need to consider in our policy is that the maintaining of the water quality, river system ecology is equally important. The protection of the river from pollution and maintaining the beautification of the riverside and right of way and strict regulation provision, punishment and penalty for defaulter is provisioned in our policy, which will be legalized from the coming act. So another issue, another new issue we try to incorporate in this policy is maintaining the waterway and right of way. Waterways shall be maintained strictly. No infrastructures shall be allowed to construct within the waterway. Even our river management infrastructure shall not be constructed within the waterway. This is the area that is minimum required to flow the river within the natural state. So based on the type classification and other basis, we will classify the right of way of the river, and that is declared under the right of way of the river, and where the permanent structure are not allowed to construct in this area. And if somebody wants special infrastructure construction, then the licensing or approval is must. This is the provision. So another is a sediment management plan. So nowadays, if we see the sediment extraction and management is in haphazard way, so the sediment analysis of the sediment transport deposition shall be carried out, and strategic river location from where we can extract the river sediments can be determined, and amount of the silt to be removed from each strategic location, dredging cost and benefits, sediment removal monitoring process, indicators, and required institutional will be proposed, and sediment management plans will be provided to the concerned authority of the federal, provincial, and local governments for the management of the sediment in their jurisdiction. Here we Department of Water Resource and Irrigation or Government of Nepal will only prepare the sediment management plan, studying these previous sites issues, and we will make available of such plans to the local governments. Here I would like to highlight again the licensing, royalty, and collection of the taxes shall be based on the prevailing law. Nowadays, it is under the jurisdiction of the local government. So local government will do these things, but that should be in line with the prepared sediment management plan, not a haphazard extraction and other things, but they should follow our sediment management plan. And tax royalty will go to their as per the law. So another issue is security of the infrastructure. Like we will in the policy, it is clearly explained restriction to extract the riverbed materials, impacting the existing river management infrastructure and other hydraulic structure. If certain distance of upstream and downstream of the existing infrastructures, the licensing or approval is must to take any riverbed materials that affect the infrastructure. So our policy will secure the infrastructure from over extraction of the sediment material. So and one very different issue is use of the river material for a special purpose. Nowadays, if we see for the construction of the river embankments or for the protection of the flood-induced management activities, the river material are sometimes unavailable, and even due to the huge royalty and taxes, the cost of the embankment somehow like expensive. That's why we provision for the emergency management of the flood and inundation work. We can use the construction material freely from that particular river to construct the embankment or for the flood disaster management work. And for this, only information shall be given to the local government. And for that case, no royalty or tax shall be levied extracting the riverbed materials. After putting these things in our policy, we will definitely reflect this issue in the coming act, and we will be implementing our policies very freely. So another issue is in long run, we are planning to prepare the flood hazard maps and classify the flood prone area And based on the floodplain flood hazard map, the activities allowed it or restricted activities shall be declared. And if everybody need to follow these plans and these provisions. Otherwise, the government incentives, and during the flood, if there will be loss, no compensation shall be given in this particular case, not following these provision. So very preliminary proposal is we classify different zone based on the return period of the flood, and we classify these areas, what activities we can do and what activities we cannot do. So this will be provisioned in our new policy. And management of the reclaimed land, the reclaimed public land as well as private land, we propose two different into two different categories. The public land, reclaimed public land shall be used for social, economical, and cultural purpose by leasing or public-private partnership, and develop new direction is to develop this area as a commercial, touristic, or high-value land, so that the economic investment can be justified. Economics of the investment can be justified. So management of the reclaimed land, for that case, we will prepare the procedural guideline. Licensing is essential, and even disaster affected communities association can use this kind of land too. So for the private land, we proposed very innovative things. Is the priority for the river management work shall be given in the area based on the willingness to contribute in that area. If for the private land, this provision is based on the request and available budget, prioritization shall be carried out, and based on the current price of the land, total area reclaimed, and further future value of the land or benefits received from the river training works, partnership modality and percentage shall be decided for the private land. And even we are planning to implement the land pooling concept if the area reclaimed will be a really large area. And for this also we will prepare the guidelines and explaining about the investment, partnership, and sharing of the return and other land pooling concepts. And to maintain the uniformity in design, Government of Nepal will prepare the guidelines and standard, and the provincial government and even local government need to follow these standard, and this will definitely restrict the haphazard construction and avoid the duplication and mismatch. And participation, our proposal is to involve the disaster affected communities association in local level, DACA in local level, and federated organization at the river basin level, formed, registered, and participated in river and disaster management activities. Pivotal, these local associations will be pivotal for managing an emergency response during the disaster, as well as for the awareness raising activities in local level, help project offices for implementation, coordination, settling of disputes, monitoring of the construction activities. So another is like the reclaimed land can be properly managed with the involvement of these local governments, assuring operation and maintenance in a sustainable way. And we propose the coordination mechanism. The two committees here. One is Intergovernmental Relations Committee. This committee is headed by the Ministry of Energy, and there will be members from provincial government, local government, and other stakeholders. And they will be involved for the preparation, implementation of the disaster risk mitigation measure and related project-related works. And another is Interministerial Coordination Committee, which will be headed by the Secretary and and will be involved to coordinate the different organizations involving in this sector. And finally, our proposal is, after the formulation of this river management and water-induced policy, as well as irrigation policy, we will be.
Baral sir, time is almost to the end.
This is my last slide.
Try to.
This is my last slide.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And River Management and Irrigation Act will be promulgated very soon, in which we define the role and responsibility of the concerned, as well as strict regulation in these areas. One is maintaining the waterway width, right of way, and haphazard construction restriction, sediment management, security of the infrastructure, and maintaining river system water quality, and registration of these local authority, and free use of the river material to protect the same river, like this. So our proposal, our next plan is to prepare the act. Thank you so much. I have highlighted some of the new provisions that are provision in the new act, new policy. And I'm glad to share these issues, because distinguished participants will give the valuable comments, feedbacks that will be incorporated in our policy. We are very soon submitting this policy to the government of Nepal ministry. So your
thank you, Baral sir, very timely completion.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Baral sir. I'm not sure I'm audible. Looks like issue with internet at my end.
Yeah. We are hearing you.
All right. Thank you so much for timely completion of your presentation and sharing your proposed policy in a very nice and easy to understand way. We highly appreciate it. Now it's a time for taking feedback, inputs, or the question and answer session. We highly encourage our distinguished participants to participate actively in this process. If you like to use chat box, that's also welcome. Or if you like to speak out, please speak it out. There is an opportunity to all of us to contribute in this noble cause, and also to confirm ourselves if we have any queries from the team who has developed this draft. Any questions or inputs from participants, please? Or
I would like to have one question.
Yes, please. So, Vik sir, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Sanjeev sir, for your nice presentation. It's very good to see how the tax royalty have been incorporated in the new coming policy. I and Meghraj sir were discussing these things in our work, and I would like to ask about the flood risk map, because you said our policy is incorporating hazard map, but I didn't see anything about the risk map. So is there any plan for the risk map? Thank you.
Yes, Baral sir, please go ahead with the response. Please unmute yourself, Baral sir. You are muted.
Okay. Yes, sir. We will prepare the flood hazard maps for the particular different rivers, and obviously based on these maps, we'll classify the zones and incorporate the flood risk zoning, and also in the provision we are planning to elaborate the different zone and the activities that are allowed within that zone, and the restricted activities within that zone. So this is Department of Water Resources and Irrigation will involve in a large with a large scope to incorporate these issues in the days to come after the policy will be implemented. Yes.
Thank you. There is one more question from Krishna Singh sir. What are the problems regarding design of river management structure in Nepal, and how it can be incorporated in the policy? Yes, Baral sir, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Actually, yes, we have covered these things regarding the design of the river management structures. We have been doing based on the flood analysis and actual site conditions. However, if you see sometimes river because of the river enforcement and the resistance from the local community, like we are unable to implement such design of the structure, maintaining the appropriate waterway and even as per our design outputs. That's why we are planning to incorporate here in the policy. We clearly want to highlight we need to maintain the waterway and other things. Other is like there are a lot of issues regarding the design. Is if we plan in an integrated way within a whole river, that would be effective. But because of the resource limitation, we are implementing in a piecemeal approach. That makes the somehow our infrastructure ineffective. Yes, thank you. I think I cover your issue.
All right. There is one more query from Susan Tamrakar, sir. Is there any provision for watershed management in the policy, as watershed management is useful to prevent the flood? Is any provision for watershed management included in the policy? Yes, Baral sir. Hello. Baral sir. I have seen the raised hand. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
All right.
I think
Baral
Baral
sir,
sir
please
might have some.
unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Yes, please,
okay.
Baral sir, go ahead.
Sorry, it is like a problem. So regarding the questions of Mr. Susan Z, because we have covered the watershed management issue also, because it is directly linked to the flood and sediment management. So during the sediment, making the preparation of the sediment management plan and even flood hazard maps, will consider the river basins or watersheds. But the activities we are going to focus is not as much as to the watershed level because of the resource constraint, as you know. But we try to incorporate some of the issues of the watershed management in new policy. Yes, thank you. We'll see and also try to incorporate your feedback in these.
Thank you, sir. There are a couple of more comments, but before that, let me go to the raised hand. Anup Khanal, sir, do you have any inputs? Please go ahead, unmute yourself and go ahead.
थ्याङ्क यू सर अनि नमस्ते सबैजनालाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद सञ्जीव सरलाई धेरै हामीलाई भ्यालुएबल इन्फर्मेसन प्रोभाइड गर्नुभएकोमा हामीले वार्षिक रूपमा रिभर ट्रेनिङ वर्क्समा चाहिँ ह्युज क्यापिटल कस्टहरू इन्भेस्ट गरिरहेका हुन्छौँ तर यसको चाहिँ अपरेसन र मेन्टेनेन्स मा चाहिँ त्यो एस्पेक्टमा ध्यान नदिँदाखेरि चाहिँ यसको फङ्सनालिटी चाहिँ एभ्री इयर लुज हुँदै गइरहेको हुन्छ र यो कसले अपरेसन एन्ड मेन्टेनेन्सको रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी लिने र यसको फन्ड कसरी अलोकेसन गर्ने भन्ने कुराहरू पनि पोलिसीमा आइदियो भने यसको चाहिँ सस्टेनेबिलिटी अलिकति दिगो हुन्थ्यो कि भन्ने मेरो सुझाव छ.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. It's just a suggestion. No need to respond now. Thank you very much for your feedback. And there's one more query from Santosh sir. Since the disaster resilient infrastructure involves a wealth of cost, how to determine the extent of resiliency considering the cost involved? Would you like to respond to that, Sanjeev sir?
Actually, thank you for a wonderful comment. Yes, actually, we yes, because of the limitation of the resources, somehow we compromised to develop some of the infrastructures level. However, our policy clearly says, like, to construct the resilient infrastructure, and we want to justify our investment based on the reclaimed land and the proactive use of that land. If we can really develop a big city or big urban area or touristic area along the bank of the river, and the value of the land or value of the infrastructure investment can be justified. That is how we have been seeing at this stage. Thank you, sir.
There's one more query, please elaborate concept of land pooling to develop public and private reclaimed land in integrated way.
Okay, actually यसमा चाहिँ के छ भने हामीले दुईटा एस्पेक्टबाट हेरेका छौँ। अहिले अब हामीले रिभर ट्रेनिङको अथवा रिभर म्यानेजमेन्टको वर्क गरिरहँदाखेरि डेभलप भएको जुन जग्गा छ, रिक्लेम ल्यान्ड छ, यदि त्यो सार्वजनिक जग्गा हो भने त्यसलाई युज गर्ने कुरा एउटा एस्पेक्टमा हामीले हेरेका छौँ। त्यसलाई अलिकति प्राइभेट सेक्टरलाई लिजिङ गरेर होस् अथवा प्राइभेट पब्लिक प्राइभेट पार्टनरसिपमा युज गरेर त्यसको प्रोडक्टिभ युज, इकोनोमिक युज गराउने कुरा हामीले कल्पना गरिरहेछौँ भने, अर्कोतिर चाहिँ प्राइभेट सेक्टरले यदि कसैले चाहिँ हाम्रो जग्गा डेभलप गर्नको लागि पार्टनरसिप मोडल कसैले प्रपोज गर्छ, म 50% हाल्छु, 50% चाहिँ गभर्मेन्टले हालेर यसलाई डेभलप गरौँ भनेर कसैले आयो भने त्यसपर्छ पनि हामीले ओपन गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने सोचेका छौँ। होइन, अब कुनै एउटा लार्ज एरिया चाहिँ कुनै रिभर ट्रेनिङ वर्क्सबाट डेभलप हुन्छ, त्यहाँ चाहिँ सर्टेन एमाउन्ट अफ पब्लिक ल्यान्ड पनि डेभलप हुन्छ, प्राइभेट पनि केही डेभलप हुन्छ भने त्यो सबै एरियालाई लिएर त्यहाँ चाहिँ पार्टनरसिप बनाएर ल्यान्ड पुलिङ गरेर त्यसको चाहिँ अहिले जुन ल्यान्ड पुलिङ कन्सेप्ट छ त्यसमा गरेर त्यो ठाउँलाई नै एउटा इकोनोमिक जोनमा ट्रान्सलेट गर्न सकिन्छ भने हामी त्यो डिरेक्सनमा नि जानुपर्छ भन्ने हिसाबले यो पोलिसीमा चाहिँ हामीले त्यो कुरालाई ओपन अप गरेका छौँ। It is somehow like different and innovative also. र त्यो अब नारायणीको किनार अहिले हामीले नारायणी नदी व्यवस्थापनमा ठुलो इन्भेस्टमेन्ट गरिरहेछौँ भने why not to develop that area as a very high value area and develop भएको एरियालाई चाहिँ ओभरअल कमर्सियल कम्प्लेक्स अथवा कमर्सियल एरियामा किन डेभलप नगर्ने भन्ने कुरामा चाहिँ त्यो डिरेक्सन नि जानुपर्छ भन्ने हाम्रो पोलिसीले छुन खोजेका छौँ सर।
All right, thank you. There is one more question from Khemra Sharma, sir. Rivers do not recognize the political boundaries and there are issues with the upstream and downstream. And since our water management approach is quite fragmented, they are not well addressed so far. So is there any suggestions for the institutional reforms or the new setup in the policy response? Because river basin management without stakeholder participation will not be difficult. Any specific response for institutional reform to address this issue?
Actually, in this policy, मा हामीले धेरै institutional reform को कुरा चाहिँ हामीले गरेका छैनौं. However, very few हुन्छ. तर हामीले चाहिँ यसमा river को कुरा गरिरहँदाखेरि चाहिँ river को water को aspect, water को quantity को aspect मा हामी धेरै छिरेका छैनौं. यसमा चाहिँ यहाँहरुलाई भन्न चाहन्छु river management को in terms of maintenance of the waterway, right of way maintain गर्ने कुरा, sediment extraction को कुरा र river training works अथवा river management works लाई र हाम्रो चाहिँ अहिले भइरहेको water induced disaster management works लाई लिंक गर्न खोजेका छौं र डेभलप्ड ल्यान्डलाई गरेका छौं। तर हामीलाई यसको लागि चाहिँ जुन वाटर रिसोर्स एक्ट को एउटा ड्राफ्ट भएर एउटा शेपमा आएको छ त्यसकै फ्रेमवर्कमा बसेर हामीले अलिकति डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ वाटर रिसोर्स एन्ड इरिगेशन्स का केही स्कोपहरु थपेका छौं। त्यो अनुसार भोलि हामी इन्स्टिट्युशनल ओएनएम गरेर केही कुराहरु एड्रेस गर्छौं। तर नट लाइक सरले भन्नुभएकै जस्तो यो कुरामा चाहिँ यो रिभर बेसिन अर्गनाइजेसन्सहरु हामीले चाहिँ एउटा ठाउँमा भनेका छौं डिजास्टर कमिटीहरु बनाउने भनेका छौं र रिभर बेसिन लेभलमा चाहिँ प्रत्येक रिभरको चाहिँ एउटा बनाउने भनेका छौं व्हिच विल बी लिंक्ड टु द जुन अहिले वाटर रिसोर्स एक्ट अथवा चाहिँ हाम्रो वेक्सले गर्न खोजेकोसँग हामी लिंक अप गर्छौं। हामीले छुट्टै यसलाई चाहिँ त्यसैसँग इन्ट्रिग्रेट गर्ने सोच बनाएको छौं सर। मैले चाहिँ अलि पुरै रूपमा सरको कुरालाई एड्रेस गर्न सके कि सकिन। दिस इज आवर current discussion, sir. Thank you.
Khemra sir, if you have any specific additional suggestion, please you can unmute yourself and speak out as well, because there are not many questions. I mean, comments in the chat box, we can utilize the time.
I
Given
know,
your experience, your
I
input should be
know,
highly useful.
I-
Thank you, sir.
First of all, thank you for the very nice presentation. मेरो भनाइ के हो भनेर भनेदेखि के अरे अब हामीले अहिले पनि त्यहाँ इन्टिग्रेटेड वाटर रिसोर्स म्यानेजमेन्टको कुरो आयो है, सेमी एज रिभर बेसिन अर्गन म्यानेजमेन्ट होइन। अब यो विगतमा पनि के भएको थियो भनेदेखि धेरै जसो डिबेटहरूमा चाहिँ नै अपस्ट्रिम धेरै गरेर प्लेन एरियालाई कन्सिडर गरियो, अपस्ट्रिमको चाहिँ नै इन्ट्रेस्टलाई हेरिएन भन्ने थियो है। अब त्यसैले गर्दाखेरिमा अब यसमा त के भने रिभर बेसिन म्यानेजमेन्ट भनेर भनियो भनेदेखि त अपस्ट्रिम डाउन स्ट्रिमको कोलाबोरेसनको कुरो आउँछ। त्यो हुँदाखेरिमा अहिलेको यो फ्रेगमेन्टेड जुन हाम्रो इन्स्टिट्युसनल सेटअप छ त्यसमा चाहिँ नि केही सुधार गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने मलाई इन्डिभिजुअली लाग्छ र त्यसमा केही पोलिसीले इङ्गित गर्न खोजिएको छ कि भन्ने मात्रै मेरो कन्सर्न।
सर यो विषयमा हामीले अलिकति कन्सल्टेसन्स गर्छौँ, त्यो बेलामा सरहरूको अलिकति फिडब्याकलाई विल डेफिनेटली इन्कर्पोरेट, बिकज सरहरूसँग एकदम लामो अनुभव छ यो क्षेत्रको। यसलाई चाहिँ कसरी जाने हामी यसलाई इन्स्टिट्युसनललाई अलिकति कसरी गर्न सक्छौँ त्यो बेलामा गरौँला सर। हजुरको केही छ भने स्पेसिफिक प्लिज विल डेफिनेटली इन्कर्पोरेट दिज इस्युज सर।
Thank you. There is one more question. What is the difference between spur and stud? Are there any specific conditions where these structures are designed? There is one question from Gaurav sir. Would you like to respond to this one?
Actually, this is purely a technical issue, so better not to discuss here in this.
All right. Thank you. And before going to other comments here, I have seen the hand raised by Gopal Sharma sir. Would you please, Gopal Sharma sir, please unmute yourself and you may speak out. Then I will come to Ekra sir next.
It's next man.
Gopal sir, please.
Namaste. Gopal Sharma, Karnali प्रदेशबाट राम्रो प्रेजेन्टेसन धेरै धन्यवाद। विशेष गरी अलिकति यो फेडरल गभर्नमेन्ट र प्रोभिन्सियल गभर्नमेन्टको एउटा लिङ्केजको कुराहरू पनि यसमा एड्रेस हुनुपर्छ कि भन्ने लाग्छ। अर्को रिभर एन्ड वाटर अलिकति डेडिकेटेड इन्स्टिट्युसन को डेभलप गर्ने कन्सेप्ट जस्तो लाग्छ। अहिले अलिकति डिपार्टमेन्ट वाटर रिसोर्स एन्ड इरिगेसनको कुरा गर्दा अलिकति वाइड रेन्ज भयो, त्यो कारणले यो वाटर इन्ड्युस्ड डिजास्टर म्यानेजमेन्टको पर्सपेक्टिभ चाहिँ अलिकति सप्रेस भएको हो कि जस्तो लाग्छ यसो हेर्दाखेरि। र अहिले यसो हेर्दाखेरि इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनको कुरामा जाँदाखेरि पनि फेडरल गभर्नमेन्टले सानसाना युनिटमा पनि थुप्रै कामहरू गरिरहेको छ। त्यो मलाई लाग्छ संहिताको मर्म विपरीतै हो कि पनि जस्तो लाग्छ। साना साना युनिटको कामहरू गर्दाखेरि त्यसलाई अलिकति एउटा 3 टायरको गभर्नमेन्टको हिसाबले रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी चाहिँ डिभिजन गर्नुपर्छ कि जस्तो लाग्छ। र विशेष गरी यो जोनिङको कुरा जुन छ रिभर जोनिङको कुरा गर्दाखेरि यसलाई चाहिँ यो थ्योरीमा चाहिँ धेरै राम्रो देखिन्छ पोलिसीमा, तर इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनको स्टेजमा यसलाई कसरी इन्फोर्सेबल बनाउन सकिन्छ भन्ने खालको कुरा अलिकति पोलिसीले नै यसलाई इन्फोर्सेबल बनाउन सक्ने के गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने अर्को इस्यु भएर विशेष गरी अलिकति छुटिएको कुरा जस्तो लाग्छ। यसमा वाटर इन्ड्युस्ड डिजास्टर म्यानेजमेन्ट भनेर चाहिँ अलिकति क्लाइमेट चेन्ज इस्युज पनि तथा पनि लिङ्केज भएको हो कि भन्ने कुरा लाग्छ मलाई। त्यो कुरा पोलिसीमा कतै एड्रेस भएको जस्तो बराल सरको प्रेजेन्टेसनमा त्यति धेरै देखिएन। एउटा त्यो कुरा यसमा लिङ्केज गर्नुपर्छ कि भन्ने मैले सजेसन राखेँ। अर्को विशेष गरी अहिले ट्रान्सपोर्ट अथवा सेडिमेन्टको आउने भोल्युमको जुन कुरा छ, जस्तो स्थानीय तह अन्य निकायले गाउँमा चाहिँ जथाभावी चाहिँ बाटो खनेर जुन रिभरमा लोड आउँछ त्यो लोडको चाहिँ हामीसँग डेटा किपिङ सिस्टम छैन। त्यो कारणले विशेष गरी अलिकति डेटामा पनि हामीले चाहिँ डेटा कलेक्सन अथवा त्यसको एनालाइसिस रिसर्चमा पनि हामीले इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनको ध्यान दिनुपर्छ कि भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ। हस्, धन्यवाद। मैले यति कुरा राखेँ।
Thank you, Gopal sir. Before coming to Ekra sir, there is one comment from Vinay Paudel sir. Could we propose the concept of sedimentary management plan as you said in the new Water Resources Act भन्नुभएको छ। I think that's related to Water Resource Act, and those who are working with that maybe consider this as a feedback. We may not need to discuss here. Baral sir, please, would you like to respond to Gopal?
Thank you. यो दुईटै कुरा गोपालजीले वास्तवमा धेरै कुरा भन्नुभयो, एकदम थ्याङ्क यू सो मच। अहिले वास्तवमा हाम्रो समस्या भनेको नि डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ वाटर रिसोर्स एन्ड इरिगेसनमा पनि जताततै एकदम साना खोलादेखि लिएर यो मागहरू आएको छ। त्यसकारण हामीले पोलिसीमै एउटा थ्रेसहोल्ड तोकेर त्यसलाई भोलि हामीले कानुनमा रिफ्लेक्ट गरिसकेपछि आई थिङ्क इट विल बी स्ट्रिमलाइन्ड। यो अहिलेको इनिसियल फेज भएको कारणले पनि यस्तो भएको होला। बिस्तारै प्रदेशले नि क्यापासिटी बिल्डअप गर्दै गएपछि र त्यहाँ पनि एउटा रिसोर्स चाहिँ एउटा च्यानलाइज भइसकेपछि चाहिँ आई थिङ्क इन द डेज टु कम यो म्यानेज होला एउटा कुरा। अर्को कुरा हामीले चाहिँ अलिकति यो रिभर जोनिङको कुरा चाहिँ जुन गरेका छौँ त्यसमा चाहिँ हामीले म्यापहरू बनाएर म्यापको अब हामीले क्रिटिकल ठाउँहरूमा विल स्टार्ट इमिडिएटली आफ्टर द पोलिसी कि यो ठाउँमा विभिन्न जोनहरू रिस्क जोनहरू चाहिँ त्यहाँ क्लासिफाई गरेर त्यो ठाउँमा लाइनै तानेर हामी त्यसलाई इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्नुपर्छ, त्यो कुरा चाहिँ छ। अर्को चाहिँ यो लिङ्केजको कुरामा त्यही भएर हामीले 3टा इन्टर गभर्मेन्टल कोअर्डिनेसन कमिटी नै प्रपोज गरेका छौँ। र अर्को कुरा अलिकति डिजाइन स्ट्यान्डर्डमा चाहिँ प्रोभिन्सले पनि हामीले तयार गरेको चाहिँ डिजाइन स्ट्यान्डर्ड्स गाइडलाइन्सलाई फलो गर्ने मेकानिजम हामी बनाउन चाहेका छौँ। र क्यापासिटी अलिकति 1-2टा कुराहरू चाहिँ मैले यहाँ टाइम लिमिटेसनले गर्दा भनिनँ। यो क्लाइमेट चेन्ज इस्युजहरूको कुराहरू त्यहाँ छ, इज देयर, त्यहाँ छ। डाटा किपिङको कुराहरू पनि हामीले कसरी गर्छौँ त्यो कुराहरू गरेका छौँ। र एउटा सेडिमेन्ट म्यानेजमेन्टमा चाहिँ हाम्रो कन्सेप्ट के हो भने हामी एउटा रिभरलाई अलिकति ओभरअल रूपमा हेरेर त्यसको सेडिमेन्ट म्यानेजमेन्ट प्लान बनाउने र कहाँबाट सेफली एक्सट्र्याक्ट गर्न सकिन्छ, कहाँबाट गर्न सकिन्छ त्यो प्लान चाहिँ स्थानीय तहलाई नै दिने र त्यो तहको त्यो आधारमा उसले चाहिँ एक्सट्र्याक्सन र म्यानेजमेन्ट गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने, त्यसलाई चाहिँ एउटा अलि बाध्यकारी बनाऊ भन्ने हिसाबले गर्न खोजेको हो। थ्याङ्क यू गोपालजी फर फिडब्याक।
अलराइट, थ्याङ्क यू सर, thank you. There, I think one more comment from Jagadish Karmasari sir. I think this you don't need to respond. One suggestion is please share the draft policy. It looks a good idea. If we can share to everyone requesting for feedback by a certain time frame, that would be really helpful. And he also suggested if the size of the river, like small, medium, and large, to be managed by different tiers of government already defined. If yes, we may adopt that. If not, maybe we may need to think of defining it. If not in other policy, maybe this policy may consider this. This is a feedback. You don't need to respond. This is input actually. So I'll go to the Ekara sir first, and then to other raised hand, then to Krishna Nepal sir. Ekara sir, please go ahead.
Hello, namaste. यो रिभरमा जो चाहिँ ट्रिब्युटरीहरू छ यसको कन्सन्ट्रेसन टाइम अफ कन्सन्ट्रेसन चाहिँ डिफ्रेन्ट हुने किसिमका स्ट्रक्चरहरू पनि सम्बोधन गरेर जाने। अब एउटा मात्रै रिभर लिएर त्यसमा चाहिँ इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेभलप गर्दा चाहिँ फ्लडको लेभल चाहिँ कन्सन्ट्रेसन टाइमको कारणले गर्दा चाहिँ त्यो चाहिँ हेभी हुन जान्छ, त्यो चाहिँ म्यानेजेबल नहुन सक्छ। र डिस्ट्रिब्युटरीहरूमा पनि जुन चाहिँ इनलेट पोइन्टहरू हो त्यसमा आउने त्यो टाइम अफ कन्सन्ट्रेसन चाहिँ फरक हुने किसिमले स्ट्रक्चरहरू पनि डेभलप गर्न सकिने खालको प्रोभिजन पोलिसीमा राख्न सकियो भने हामीले चाहिँ पानीको मात्रा चाहिँ मिलाएर बगाउन सकिन्छ र फ्लड हाजर्ड चाहिँ कम गर्न सकिन्छ जस्तो लागेर भन्न खोजेको हुँ सर।
Thank you sir. This is again the input. Sanjeev, yes sir, please.
टाइम कन्सन्ट्रेसन टाइम ल्यागिङ गर्ने स्ट्रक्चरहरू ट्रिब्युटरीमा पनि बनाउन सकिने किसिमको पोलिसीमा चाहिँ एड्रेस गर्नु पर्ला। मेन रिभर मात्रैमा रिभर म्यानेजमेन्ट स्ट्रक्चरहरू बनाएर मात्रै अलि सकस लागि भनेर एउटा।
Thank you sir. Thank you sir. I say input. Baral sir might have noted already. Krishna Nepal sir, would you like to share something, please?
धन्यवाद बरालजी, एकदमै राम्रोसँग अहिले ड्राफ्ट पोलिसीलाई प्रस्तुत गरिदिनु भयो। अहिले गोपालजीले कर्णाली प्रदेशबाट उठाउनु भएको इस्यु पनि समसामयिक थियो। मैले खालि अलिकति पोलिसीमा एड गर्ने चिज मात्रै अहिले पछिल्लो समय देखिएको स्थानीय पालिकाहरूले आफ्नो त्यो भौगोलिक क्षेत्रभित्रको नदीहरूको नदीजन्य पदार्थ निकालेर बिक्री गर्ने वितरण चाहिँ गर्ने, तर जुन नदीबाट ती पदार्थहरू निकालिया छ त्यसको चाहिँ रिभर म्यानेजमेन्टमा चाहिँ त्यति धेरै लगानी नगर्ने भएको हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ फाइदा एउटाले लिने अनि त्यसको चाहिँ व्यवस्थापन गर्न लगानी सङ्घीय अथवा प्रदेश सरकारसँग खोज्ने खालको भएको छ। एउटा पोलिसीमा थप्नुपर्ने चाहिँ जुन नदीबाट जति फाइदा लिइन्छ त्यसको केही प्रतिशत चाहिँ त्यसको व्यवस्थापनलाई पनि लगाउनु पर्ने छ भन्ने खालको एड गर्न सकियो भने जसले फाइदा लिन्छ त्यसले चाहिँ व्यवस्थापन गर्छ भन्ने खालको एउटा पोलिसी इस्टाब्लिस गर्नलाई हामीले थप्नुपर्ने जस्तो लाग्छ। मैले खालि सजेसनको रूपमा मात्रै राखेँ। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir. This is also the suggestion, I think, noted. There is one more comment from Santosh sir. पूर्वाधार निर्माणमा ठुलो निर्माण सामग्री नदीबाट प्राप्त गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। अहिलेको प्र्याक्टिसमा नदीजन्य पदार्थ निकाल्ने प्रक्रिया निकै झन्झटिलो छ। यदि नदीजन्य पदार्थ निकाल्न अवरोध भयो भने कुनै न कुनै रूपमा इलिगल रूपमै पनि हुन सक्छ। मेटेरियल निकाल्न सक्छन्। नदीको मेटेरियल निकाल्न नदिएमा हिल कटिङ हुन सक्छ। रिभर बेड मेटेरियल प्रत्यक्ष रूपमा डिजास्टरसँग सम्बन्धित भएकोले वर्तमान समयमा कसरी व्यवस्था गर्न सकिएला भनेर एउटा क्वेरी पनि छ र यसलाई सायद पोलिसीमा नि कसरी एड्रेस गर्ने भन्ने किसिमले त्यसरी पनि लिङ्क भए हुन सक्छ। वुड यु लाइक टु कमेन्ट बराल सर?
यस, हैन, तपाईले भन्नुभएको हामीले रोक्नी त भनेकै छैन पोलिसले, मात्र सेडिमेन्ट म्यानेजमेन्ट प्लान बनाऊ र जहाँ जहाँ चाहिँ भोल्युम कति छ एक्सट्र्याक्टेबल भोल्युम त्यो गरेर प्रायोरिटाइज गरेर प्रायोरिटी 1 प्रायोरिटी 2 अथवा कसरी हुन्छ त्यसमा चाहिँ त्यो ठाउँमा निकाल्ने नै हो। कति ठाउँमा ननिकालेको कारणले समस्या आएको छ त्यसलाई पनि अझ व्यवस्थित बनाऊ भन्ने नै हो हाम्रो आशय। तपाईले भन्नुभएको कुरा एकदम 100% ट्रु। यस, थ्यांक यू।
I think we have addressed most of the comments. They are shared either through either verbally or through the chat box. There is one more. Jitendra Sahani sir, I have a query. If there is any provision for addressing the drainage issue as an integrated part of irrigation.
यसमा यो पोलिसीमा हामीले चाहिँ अलिकति थोरै इनुन्डेसन एन्ड ड्रेनेज म्यानेजमेन्ट भनेर चाहिँ यो क्रस बोर्डर मा चाहिँ नेपाल भारतको सानो ड्रेनले पनि केही हुन सक्छ भनेर त्यो मात्र राखेको छ। नत्र धेरै ठुलो यो इरिगेसनको ड्रेनेज भनेको इट इज अ डिफरेन्ट च्याप्टर। अहिले हामी चाहिँ यसमा सिँचाइ नीति पनि ड्राफ्ट गर्दै छौं, त्यसमा सायद तपाईले भनेको कुरा आउँछ होला। Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, now we are almost around the end of the session as well. Before closing, I would like to request Umesh Parajuli sir, who I think was involved in drafting this thing, if he has any further inputs or comments or response to some of the comments. Umesh sir, would you like to respond something within 1.5 to 2 minutes, or add anything if required?
Sir, everything is very much nice. Your river and sediment का कुराहरु चाहिँ यसमा धेरै कुराहरु आए। अब अलिकति सायद उहाँलाई अलिकति टाइम पनि भएन होला। अलिकति इनन्डेसन पार्ट र ल्यान्डस्लाइड को पार्टहरुमा त्यति सायद जान सकिएन कि I think those are also important things disaster को हिसाबले। तर यो पोलिसीमा त पक्कै पनि छ। अरु त I think is good enough. अब यो धेरै नै चेन्ज छ अहिलेको पोलिसी भन्दा। अब डिपार्टमेन्टले रियली अब यसमा धेरै नै काम गर्नुपर्ने चाहिँ बाँकी छ इन द कमिङ डेज। मेरो खास अरु केही छैन। थ्यांक यू भेरी मच।
Thank you, sir. Whether if anyone else has any final, comments or inputs, we still have 1 more minute for that. Any final comments from anyone else?
If I may add,
please.
म पनि यो हाम्रो उमेश सरसँगकै टिममा भएको हिसाबले मैले खाली यो गर्न खोजेँ भने बरालजी पनि एकदम राम्रोसँग गर्नुभयो, प्रेजेन्ट गर्नुभयो। यो पोलिसी हाम्रो हिसाबले पनि राम्रो पोलिसी आछ। तर कुरा साथसाथै के पनि कुरा छ भने यसले रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी DWRI रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी पनि धेरै थपिएको छ। यो मतलब त्यो वाटरवे डिमार्केट गर्ने भनेको नेपाल अधिराज्यभरिको नदीहरूको वाटरवे डिमार्केसन गर्ने भने इज अ ह्युज टास्क। हैन सेडिमेन्ट म्यापिङ गर्ने सेडिमेन्ट प्लान बनाउने भन्ने कुरा पनि अब डिफरेन्ट रिभरको डिफरेन्ट सेक्सन्सको बेग्लै बेग्लै किसिमको प्लानहरू हामीले बनाउनु पर्ने हुन्छ त्यो भएर द्याट इज अल्सो अ ह्युज टास्क त्यो भएर मैले देखिरहेको चाहिँ के भने यो पोलिसीलाई अगाडि बढाउने आफ्नो ठाउँमा छ तर साथसाथै त्यही किसिमको तयारी DWRI ले पनि त्यसको इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनलाई मा त्यतिकै तयारी गर्नुपर्ने चाहिँ आवश्यकता भएको छ टकारो भएको छ होइन भने चाहिँ फेरि अब यो चाहिँ कस्तो भने कागजमा बन्ने इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन नआउने जस्तो अवस्था हुन सक्छ भन्ने मात्रै मेरो भनाइ हस् थ्यांक यू
Thank you, Sumer sir. I think we had a very productive discussion today because we try to cover a range of inputs from the wide range of the experienced people here. I believe these are very valuable inputs to the policy that we are currently, Department of Water Resources and Irrigation is currently putting it forward. I also saw one more comments, perhaps the final one for this one. Nice presentation. Flood dispersive structure for tributaries will be better with the federal government. That's I think just a feedback. Thanks a lot for that. With this, I think we are coming almost to the end of our session. We thank you so much to Sanjeev Baral sir, and like mentioned by one of the participants, it might be good to share the draft policy to whoever is the potential person within the department or to all, and request for the feedback within certain time frame so that it is kind of taken ownership by all, and it becomes our policy becomes really a robust one. It's a really good feedback. Thank you, Baral sir. And I would like always. Now, the final part of our today's session is to announce the next lecture. Next session, which we are going to do now. Just a minute. Is my slide visible?
Yes, it is visible.
All right. The next talk would be on responding to climate change impacts in water and agriculture. That will be again the second Friday of the Baishak, which is 22nd of April. We will have Professor Dr. Sangam Shrestha, who is a professor and program chair with Water Engineering and Management Department, and also the head of the Department of Civil and Infrastructure Engineering with the Asian Institute of Technology. He's a highly accomplished person with a lot of experience and the accomplishment in his career. There's a very short biography. I'm not going to read it now. He has more than 150 papers in international journals and contributed a lot in capacity building in Nepal and beyond in the Asia. So we'll be sharing this call and in the later on due course. With this brief announcement for the next session, please continue being with us in the next session as well, and we look forward welcoming you all in the 10th episode in 22nd of April. With this, we come to the we'll conclude today's session. Thank you so much for your active participation as always. Thank you. Have a nice weekend ahead, and see you in a month time. Thank you. Namaskar and bye-bye.